Alabama, let's get it.
The process, no one can stop this. Hottest show in the streets, I bet you can't top this. Recruiting news and interviews, just sit back and watch this.
Recruiting news and interviews, just sit back and watch this.
The process.
How's it going, everyone? Welcome into The Process, Crimson Tide Recruiting. I'm your host, Justin Smith, the Director of Recruiting and Managing Editor here at Touchdown, Alabama. Thank you guys so much for joining me on our YouTube channel as always. Be sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button while you are here. Subscribe to the notification bell. Be notified when we drop content on our YouTube channel. If you're not one of our loyal subscribers already, be sure to hit that subscribe button because we are going to continue to bring you guys exclusive breakdowns and analysis about the Alabama football team and recruiting information. As you guys know who have been following the process over the last few years here on Touchdown Alabama's YouTube page, this is where we break down the latest in Alabama football recruiting. And on today's episode, I want to take a look at some guys who I feel the Crimson Tide are leading for, because the Crimson Tide, Alabama's coaching staff, Kaiden DeBoer, they hit the recruiting trail really hard during the month of January, getting out to see a lot of different prospects, seeing some of these prospects a couple of different times, seeing them at their high school, and then seeing them like later on that day for some prospects at their home. So the Crimson Tide's coaching staff has done a really good job of building relationships during the month of January, getting some of those guys on campus for the junior day over the weekend. Now we'll talk about some updates from that junior day on this episode of The Process as I lead into some players who I feel the Crimson Tide have jumped into that number one spot for. And the first guy is a prospect, like a lot of guys I'm going to talk about on today's episode, is a guy who's in Tuscaloosa over the weekend. He's a product of Mount Miguel High School in California. We're talking about five-star athlete Brandon Arrington, one of the top athlete prospects in the 2026 recruiting class, a guy who has the potential to play on offense and defense at the next level. But from this last visit in Tuscaloosa, I think it is very clear that the Crimson Tide like Arrington on the defensive side of football. And that is where I like him too. I think that is where he has the most upside, because he has that elusive, athletic explosiveness, that great speed that goes back to his time being a track runner at Mount Miguel High School in California. You're talking about a 6'3" long guy who holds a PR of 10.27 in the 100-meter dash and can run a 4.340. So if you know he has that type of speed, you know you're going to be able to go stride to stride with most wide receivers. You also know he has ball skills and the ability to make plays on the football, which he does on the offensive side of football from Mount Miguel High School and in the kick return game, which you guys are seeing now. And with that type of speed, with that type of athleticism, once he gets an interception, this guy is going to be easily a threat to take that interception back for a 6. But he got back to Tuscaloosa over the weekend, and he told me that the Crimson Tide are a high option for him. He said that he had a great time getting back to Tuscaloosa. This is a kid who previously said that everything about Alabama fits him. The coaching staff, the area, just everything about Tuscaloosa fits him. And he got back to Tuscaloosa basically a couple of days after Alabama's coaching staff got out to California to see him. So he basically paid Fever and got back to Tuscaloosa over the weekend. So we're talking about a California kid who's seen Alabama staff, who is located in Tuscaloosa, obviously, 2 days within a 7-day span. I think that says a lot about the way that their relationship is trending at the moment. And he's a guy I'll put into that conversation. I think Alabama is the leader for Brandon Arrington at the moment. He spent a lot of time with the Crimson Tide's defensive back coach, Maurice Linquist. Spent a lot of time with the Crimson Tide's 4-star defensive back commit, Zion Gibson. And Gibson has basically put on the recruiting hat. He wants Arrington in the Crimson Tide secondary with him in the future. So the Crimson Tide lead for the nation's number one athlete, Brandon Arrington, a 5-star out of Mount Miguel High School in California. We're going to now take it back all the way across the country. We're going to talk about an in-state kid for the Crimson Tide out of Muscle Shoals High School in Muscle Shoals, Alabama. We're talking about a 6'5", 260-pound defensive lineman or edge, depending on what recruiting site you take a look at. And he's a prospect to the Crimson Tide, offered in January, got him on campus for that junior day event as well. And he has locked in an official visit with Alabama. He will be on the campus of University of Alabama during that second week of June for his official visit. one of the just rules when you just take a look at recruiting and you follow recruiting. If a guy is officially visiting the Crimson Tide, Alabama really, really likes this kid. And I think Kamhariyan Johnson fits right into that mold. Had an opportunity to catch up with him after that junior day visit as well. And this is what he had to say to me in terms of what the Crimson Tide, in terms of what the Crimson Tide's pursuit for him will continue to look like as he continues to be one of their top in-state target, as Alabama wants to try to make a bit of a turnaround here in this 2026 class when it comes to recruiting inside the state of Alabama. But this is what Johnson had to say. He said they will be a contender. I will be taking my official visit on June 6th through June 8th, which is that first weekend in the month of June. He said he got to spend time with Alabama's coaches and watch Alabama's basketball game versus Georgia during that junior day visit over the weekend. Spent some time with Kaiden DeBoer. Said he learned a lot about the program, specifically about what DeBoer is looking to take the program, what type of players he's looking to bring in, and kind of like how he could fit into that. But in terms of what he brings to on the table and what he can do on the field, we're talking about a 6'5", 260-pound defensive lineman who I think is one of the more versatile defensive lineman prospects in the country. You rarely see a guy who has the ability to play in space, get sideline to sideline at his size. You see it right now. This is a guy who's coming from the opposite side of the football field and making a tackle at 6'5" and 260 pounds. And that's exactly what I mean when I talk about a guy being able to play sideline to sideline. And he's a guy who's going to be in a unique position when it comes to getting recruited by the Crimson Tide. But as it seems, like I say, he's going to be considered an edge or defensive lineman, but most likely in Alabama, he's going to be considered a bandit prospect. The guy who's going to play that role that the LT Overton plays, that Kamhariyan plays for Alabama, that Kobe Collins expect to play for the University of Alabama on this upcoming football season. So similar to Arrington, I put Kamhariyan Johnson into that same conversation. I think the Crimson Tide are the leader in his recruitment at the moment. So put Johnson down for that as well. Put Ezavier Crowell right next to him. The 2027, not 2027 anymore. He reclassified to the 2026 class. 5-star running back when he was a 2027 product. We'll change that eventually when we talk about Ezavier Crowell. But right now he's back to a 4-star recruit, and he's a prospect. He's going to have an opportunity to get his 5th star back. I think that just goes with him transitioning from the 2027 class to the 2026 class. Probably some more evaluators are going to want to come get out and see him at Jackson High School this upcoming season, as it will be his last high school football season, instead of him being a 2027 kid, which means his last high school football season would have been a couple of years away. But Crowell got back to Tuscaloosa like Arrington and like Johnson, got an opportunity to spend time with Alabama's coaching staff. Said he feels Alabama still stands strong with him, has an official visit locked in with Alabama for the summer already. We talked about that on the previous episode of the process. But when you talk about Crowell, the Crimson Tide are sending him a clear message, and the message is very clear, and it's just what Alabama has said, I think, over the last several years, even when Nick Saban was there, and they're telling the in-state recruit that they want him to be the standard and come be a legend at Alabama. And I think that's really simple for an in-state kid to understand. And I'm going to say this every time about most of these kids, probably from here on out. These kids have never seen the Crimson Tide struggle. For some of these kids, this past season probably was the worst season they've seen Alabama have, and that team still won 9 games. That team still was on the cusp of reaching the college football playoffs. So Crowell is in that conversation, at least in my opinion. Right now, I would go as far as to say I think Crowell is Alabama's to lose. I think he really likes Alabama just based on but I've talked to him about. It's based on how many times he's been to Tuscaloosa. He was easily on pace. It looks as if the Crimson Tide were the favorite for him when he was a 2027 kid. Now that he's reclassified to the 2026 class, got back to Tuscaloosa over the weekend, has locked in that official visit. I think Alabama is a leader for him as well. And like I said, I think Alabama is the team to beat, and I think Crowell is Alabama's to lose at this point. And there will be other teams trying to go after him, like several of the top prospects in the country. Bear McWhorter, the 4-star offensive lineman out of Georgia, also got back to Tuscaloosa over the weekend. Said it always feels great to get back the Tuscaloosa spend more time with Alabama's coaching staff. Has an official visit locked in for the Crimson Tide for the month of May, for the week of May 31st, which will be the first weekend the Crimson Tide hosts official visitors, kick off their official visit summer. And McWhorter just seems to be a guy the Crimson Tide really, really like. 6'4", dang near 300-pound kid, project to be an interior offensive lineman at the next level. I projected his ranking and rating will continue to grow up across multiple recruiting sites in the future. He said he feels really, really strong about Alabama at the moment, just based on this relationship with Alabama's coaching staff, including Kaiden DeBoer, who he got an opportunity to spend more time with over the weekend. He previously said that there's no coach that is recruiting him that has spent more time with him than Kaiden DeBoer. So DeBoer has left a big impact and made a big impact on McWhorter so far. So we'll see how the Crimson Tide fare in this recruitment. Similar to Johnson, similar to Arrington, and similar to Crowell, I would go to say that the Crimson Tide lead for McWhorter as well. But some updates I want to provide you guys with on today's episode surround a couple of different guys, including Emanuel Ruffin, the Crimson Tide's 2026 defensive lineman target out of Bessemer City, Alabama. Bessemer, Alabama. He has not locked in an official visit with the Crimson Tide, but he did get back to Tuscaloosa over the weekend. And he said he feels that Alabama will definitely play a role in this recruitment. They offered him in January, but so many other schools offered him in January. You're talking about Alabama, Georgia, Florida, USC, Texas, and others. That doesn't usually happen. They offered him almost like in a 24-hour span, it seemed. It seemed like everybody got to Bessemer City to see Ruffin during those couple of days where he got all those offers. You had Texas coach, you had Freddie Roach, you had Florida coaches. You had so many different coaches getting out to Bessemer City to offer this kid because of what they saw on him on film. And I had an opportunity actually to meet him in person earlier this week when he was training with Winning Edge offensive lineman and defensive lineman training with Terrence Swift in downtown Birmingham, and he looks the part. In terms of what he can be at the next level, his growth potential is through the roof, and you can see that from so many different factors just by looking at him train. And he has the opportunity to continue to get better. You see him flash some explosiveness. You see him flash some ability to be a strong and powerful defensive lineman at times, but you also see him play with very active hands. And I think that is a result of working with such a great trainer like Coach Swift in downtown Birmingham. So Emanuel Ruffin is a kid I wouldn't say the Crimson Tide lead for definitely at the moment, but I feel they have put themselves in a really, really strong position with them possibly being in a position to lead for him in the future. Another update I wanted to provide you guys with surrounds Kaden Harris, a 4-star defensive back out of Tennessee who the Crimson Tide are recruiting in the 2026 recruiting class. He has locked in an official visit with the Crimson Tide, the 4-star defensive back. Similar to so many of these other kids, got to see Alabama's coaching staff quite a bit during the month of January. The 6', 170-pound defensive back who has long arms, know how to use his length to his advantage. He just appears to play with this like smooth confidence when you watch this kid play, with great ball judgment skills as well, out of Haywood High School in Brownsville, Tennessee. Alabama, like I said, visited him multiple times in January. He said it was great, always good to see those guys and continue building his relationship with Alabama's coaching staff. But he will be back in Tuscaloosa during the weekend of June 20. He has locked in multiple official visits, actually, and it looks like the Crimson Tide will be the last school to get an official visit, at least during the month of June, from Harris, which is always, when it comes to recruiting and just taking a look, like I guess I'll call these the rules of recruiting and how things typically trend. If a school is set to get your last official visit, it usually means that school is in a really, really good position with you, and they also get that opportunity to leave that lasting impact on you. When you take a look at Kaden Harris's official visit list, he has official visits scheduled to Vanderbilt, Georgia, and also Tennessee. So Georgia and Tennessee in Vanderbilt, multiple SEC schools involved with them. So, a lot of people like what Kaden Harris brings to the table. The Crimson Tide will get him back on campus for an official visit during the month of June. The Crimson Tide will also try to get Kaiden Prothro back on campus. You're talking about 6'7", four-star tight end out of Georgia, who recently put the Crimson Tide in his top 5, along with Auburn, Georgia, Texas, and Florida. When you take a look at Prothro, he's 6'7". He's projected to play tight end at the next level. But when you see the way this kid play wide receiver and the way that he moves at 6'7", that's remarkable. That's impressive. That's rare. This is a very rare type of athlete to be able to move like that at 6'7". Bowdoin High School likes to use him a lot at wide receiver, spread out wide, and the Crimson Tide during that last season under Nick Sheridan as offensive coordinator, at least, they really used the tight ends effectively. And Prothro was a guy who had an opportunity to see the Crimson Tide 2 times during the football season. He actually visited Alabama, and he saw C.J. Dupree get involved with the action. He saw Josh Cuevas get involved in the action. And this is something that really stood out to Prothro. I had an opportunity to speak with him a couple of weeks ago, well, probably not a couple weeks ago, month or so ago, when the Crimson Tide target participated in the Under Armour All-America game, and he specifically talked about how the Crimson Tide used their tight ends and how he think he could fit into that. And basically, this is what he said Coach DeBoer told him. He said, Coach was telling me that they don't have no guys like me, just some inline guys who just go out and catch passes, but they can still run when they need guys to split out and just do their thing. I feel like what they are doing this year with their tight ends, having a bunch of catches, just making plays, see myself out there splitting out wide, just making even bigger catches and running the offense. So the way that the Crimson Tide use their tight ends really spoke to Prothro during the 2024 football season. But in terms of his thoughts on Alabama as a whole, he said he feels Bama's always going to be Bama football. They're known for winning, known for getting after their opponent's tail. I feel like Bama always just going to be on top and be a contender in the SEC and just in college football. So Prothro has a lot of respect for what the Alabama Crimson Tide's program stands for when it comes to the gridiron, and he's just a mismatch at 6'7", 4-star tight end, could be a wide receiver at the next level, just the way that he moves so effortlessly at that size, can run routes, can go up and catch the jump ball, obviously with that type of length and with that type of skill set and that type of frame. The Crimson Tide would love to have him. He's a 4-star right now, just basically that's a consensus 4-star, but he's going to be a guy that's going to challenge to be a 5-star by the time that 2026 by the time the 2026 recruiting class wraps up in that whole recruiting cycle. But the last guy I want to talk about is actually a 5-star and 5-star wide receiver Tristen Keys out of Mississippi, who has locked in an official visit with Alabama. When you talk about Tristen Keys, I talked about him on the last episode of the process, as well as he was in Tuscaloosa visiting the Crimson Tide over the weekend. The Keys has official visits lined up to Auburn, Tennessee, Miami, Alabama, LSU, and Texas A&M. He's a prize recruit because he's easily one of the best route runners in this 2026 recruiting class. When you take a look at Alabama recruiting Keys, I think they are in a really good position with him, just based on the relationship that Alabama's wide receiver coach Jamarcus Shepard has seemed to build with Keys in a very short time. When I talked to him at the Under Armour game, Alabama wasn't a huge part of his recruitment in terms of contact. Like they had been talking to him for a very long time. They offered him during the football season, and he didn't get on campus for a visit too this past weekend. But in terms of Alabama and him talking to Alabama's wide receiver coach Jamarcus Shepard, he said they had a lot of great talk. At that point, he came to visit him at his school, and that's his guy. Very energetic guy, and that's what I like from a receiver coach. Someone I can chill with every day, and we have fun. When it's time to be serious, it's time to be serious. And Jamarcus Shepard is respected as a wide receiver coach because of what he did at Washington and helping that wide receiver room develop so many great receivers. Of course, Jeremy Bernard was a part of that, and Shepard has an opportunity to continue to develop him at Alabama. Of course, Rome Duzier was part of that when you take a look at Washington's receiver room. So Washington produced some great receivers under Jamarcus Shepard and Kaiden DeBoer, and the Crimson Tide will look to try to develop some great ones as well. But at the moment, Tristen Keys will be in Tuscaloosa for the summer for an official visit, similar to the way that teams like Alabama see these kids for official visits. We know that the Crimson Tide see them as prospects that they would love to bring to Tuscaloosa. But a lot of times, if the kid sets up an official visit with your school, it means that he's at least very much interested in your program. And Alabama has an opportunity, a really good opportunity to make a statement in Tristen Keys recruitment when they get him on campus for that official visit. But that is what I want to talk about on this episode of The Process. Thank you guys so much for joining me today on our YouTube channel. As always, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button as well. Subscribers, hit the notification bell, be notified when we drop content on our YouTube channel. If you're not a subscriber, hit that subscribe button for me, please, so you can get the latest Alabama football news and recruiting information. As always, I am Justin Smith, the Director of Recruiting and Managing Editor here at Touchdown Alabama.